I had a great conversation last year. COFES is called the Congress for the Future of Engineering Software. It's a meeting of people that are responsible for CAD, computer-aided design, computer-aided simulation technologies, product lifecycle management, or PLM. Everybody gathers once a year, and we talk about what's happening in product development, what's happening in engineering, and how can technology help. I ran a session, facilitated a group talking about social computing in product development. And we had a fantastic conversation. And one of the things that we saw is that there were a lot of differences of opinions. First of all, social computing was happening. There were people that were trying it. There were vendors that were actually there that were interested in it and starting to make some investments in their own software products. But there are also manufacturers that were very interested in it. The interesting thing is we expected it to be a younger generation versus an older generation thing, and it wasn't. We actually, some of the people that were with a few gray hairs in their head, like I do, were the ones that were some of the biggest advocates for it. The younger generation that was there were more likely to be using it in their personal lives. The people that had been in business for a while were seeing more of how can this be used for business. We definitely saw that it was very early and that people were looking more for ideas. There weren't best practices to be shared. We didn't find one company that said, I have this all figured out. We saw a lot of companies saying, we're trying this, we're trying that, a lot of experimentation going on. One of the most vocal people in the entire thing was Boeing, the commercial airplane and commercial as well as military aircraft. And at one point he just said, "We will not design an airplane on Facebook." Okay, nobody's disagreeing with that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But he was, first of all, they shut off Facebook. And many companies, how many are in businesses where you don't have access to Facebook and social media? Not many. Okay, I'm surprised. What we see, particularly in obviously in aerospace and defense manufacturers, like a Boeing, there's some pretty practical concerns about sharing confidential information. But many of them had actually shut off access because they assumed that all the people that were using them to post pictures of monkeys dancing or something along those lines, and not using it for work. So we're starting to see that relax. So that was one part of his comment. The other thing he said is that they don't have time to do this. And that was the clearest differentiation from the people that use social computing and social media and those that didn't. Because he said, I don't have time to get through my email. And for those of us that were using social media on a regular basis, we said, of course you don't. Because when something changes, when a project changes, you get an email from you, and then you say, no, that's not true, and so we get 2 emails from you, and then a reply here, and you've got, quickly 100 emails, and you can't find the real information that you need, because you've got all of this disparate email and your inbox is too full. With social computing and social media, you've got a community space. All of that conversation and all that information is either physically in one space, or you can use some search tools or some filtering tools to consolidate it down and just get the most current information that you need. So that was, I think, very interesting. That those that were using it saw it as a time saver. Those that were not using it saw it as a waste of their time and something that they would not have time to do. Because I guess they assume this is additional work and not replacing what today happens mostly in email. We actually had a really good conversation about this, and I didn't disagree with him, by the way. Facebook is not intended in any way, shape, or form to help you design an airplane. It's just, when they sat down and said, we're going to create this, aircraft design was not in mind. And, if they were to ever ask me, and they won't, but if they ever ask me, should we invest in making Facebook work for product developers? I would say no. That's probably not a lucrative market for you. But there are some real issues with things like Facebook in using it for product development in terms of protecting intellectual property. in terms of being able to share the right content, the right relevant content. Frankly, in terms of how stable the platform is. If I was Boeing, I wouldn't want to risk time to market on Facebook being available and working on a regular basis. Not to mention, you know, the way they change features. There's a lot that goes on in a product development process that just doesn't have a place in Facebook. But what I said to him, and I don't think I convinced him at the meeting, is don't look at Facebook. Look at the concepts behind Facebook. Look at the ideas, the way Facebook makes a natural way to share information. Even if I'm just sharing pictures of my children, or you know, pictures of my you know, my trip to Finland with my friends, social media is a great way to get that information across. Product development is about communication, so it's a natural extension, but it's not on Facebook.